Let's spend a little bit of time talking about the ongoing Tucker Carlson, Ben Shapiro. Is it a conflict? I mean, not compared to a nuclear war. It's a storm in a teacup compared to that. But Tucker on Joe Rogan made some remarks about the use of the atomic bomb. Let's have a look at that first of all to kick us off.
So everybody's still talking about Tucker and Ben and the Joe Rogan podcast. That interview that Tucker and Joe Rogan did, I think it's up to like 8.8 million views. I'm not saying that that's Joe Rogan's highest watched episode or anything like that, because I wouldn't know. But I'll say that in the last few months, it is for sure. That's a fact. Everybody keeps going back to it. So people are still talking about this conversation that they had. And like I said, I think it was a great conversation. I do. And of course, people are weighing in to the whole situation where Ben Shapiro kind of just lost his mind over two people talking. And that's what I call it, because it was a little hysterical. It was just a little bit. So we're going to look at Russell's take on it and see where he goes with it.
Remarks about the use of the atomic bomb. Let's have a look at that first of all to kick us off.
Well, you could say the same about the atomic bomb, right?
Yes, you could.
And you could say that we have to develop it like Oppenheimer felt before the Nazis did.
I love that. How'd that work?
That laugh. I'm sorry. I really didn't want to cut it off, but that laugh always gets me. From I started watching Tucker on Fox back in 2020. That's when I started watching Tucker. That laugh, I used to be like, oh my God, wow, this guy is he really as bad as what people say he is? Because that laugh it's contagious. Okay, let's get back into it.
How'd that work?
Well,
I love, by the way, that people on my side, I'll just admit it, on the right, have spent the last 80 years defending dropping nuclear weapons on civilians. Like, are you joking?
Right.
That's just like prima facie evil.
Yeah.
If you can't, if we hadn't done that, then this, that, the other thing, that was actually a great savings. Like, no, it's wrong to drop nuclear weapons on people. And if you find yourself arguing that it's a good thing to drop nuclear weapons on people, then you are evil. Like, it's not a tough one, right? It's not a hard call for you. It's not a hard call for me. So with that in mind, like, why would you want nuclear weapons? It's like just a mindless, childish sort of intellectual exercise to justify, like, oh no, it's really good because someone else will get it. How about no? How about like spending all of your effort to prevent this from happening? Would you kill baby Hitler, famously?
Right.
Baby Hitler.
So wait, hold on. Just to get back to the point real quick. So obviously this is what kind of got Ben Shapiro really worked up, especially when he says like it's childish to talk about having nuclear bombs and everything. So I'm sure Ben was like, what do you mean childish? Like, we want all the bombs, and I understand that thinking too, where if they have it, we should have it kind of thing. But what started this ripple effect, and there is a thing there's things that started this stuff. Stuff doesn't just happen for no reason. There's a reason. There is a pinpoint reason. We can figure it out, but sometimes those are the questions that people don't want us to ask. So it is what it is.
Naturally done anything wrong, so it's out of order, really. How would you?
Hey, this is Russell Brand. It's funny. Some baby Hitler hadn't done anything wrong. It's out of order, really.
Explain it. What are you doing to that baby? Well, no. Now, come on. Like, people will start using that as an excuse to kill other babies.
So I don't know why we're sitting back
and I'm glad that he made that point, y'all, because you know what? Seriously, obviously, I've heard some people say that certain babies should be unalived and the woman. It's just crazy because people will start to think like that. I could see what Russell's saying.
Allowing this to happen if we really believe it will extinguish the human race or enslave the human race. Like, how can that be good?
Okay, so the way Tucker Carlson puts it, pretty difficult to disagree with that. Let's have a look what Ben Shapiro's saying. I guess he responded to Tucker's, it might be pretty reasonable claim that...
You can already tell that Russell Brand is saying, like, it is pretty reasonable, like there's no reason to get too insane about it. Again, I do believe in a strong defense system, so you could already tell. You can already most people were saying that Tucker was just being reasonable. He's asking questions, he's seen a lot, and again, when he said my side, that whole thing about my side, that's why I'm trying to decouple at least myself from thinking that, going back to it again. We always say, don't bring the asteroid. We're just bringing the asteroid, right? The asteroid will guide us to the truth, just the truth. That's it. It doesn't have anything to do with sides, right? And lately, I've been finding myself talking to all sides, as long as you don't hurt children, right? So first of all, I want to thank you guys for watching. Anybody who's watching here, obviously, you just want to have a balanced conversation. I think a lot of people are just coming back to that now. I really do, and I think that's a great thing. Don't forget to hit like the video if you like it, and please subscribe if you feel like this is something that you're interested in watching. And thank you again for watching.
Nuclear bombs, like, guess what they continually say, I suppose, and I've not seen Ben's take yet, is that without the nuclear war there would have been a greater loss of life. But let's unpack that a little.
When it comes to isolationism, as we've discussed, there are a bunch of different perspectives within the isolationist perspective. There is the we should not get involved in foreign conflicts no matter what perspective because we need the money here at home, which means that you're also in favor of cutting spending by the government on a wide variety of other subjects. There's also an isolationism that suggests that whenever America gets involved in foreign conflicts, that tends to taint the United States, not it's about the United States tainting the rest of the world. But there is a theory that has now arisen on the right that there is something deeply malign about the United States, something deeply wrong with the United States. Most people on the conservative side of the aisle tend to believe that America is a force for good in the world. And as we'll discuss, it turns out that dropping the atomic bomb on Japan was necessary for ending World War II and likely saved millions of lives, both American and Japanese. Why are we talking about how many lives it would save? It's just wrong to drop the bomb. Well, no, actually, if you end up saving more lives than are cost by the dropping of the atomic bomb, then it is morally justified to drop the atomic bomb. And that happens to be the reality of the situation.
It's quite a hard argument to make because then you'd have to sort of work out.
So real quick, because every time I watch these clips, I find another point to make, something else that just sticks out at me. You know, when Ben again says, you know, well, if you don't want to get involved with things outside of the country, then that means that you want to cut government spending on a lot of other things too. I need you to give me a detail on one thing that correlates to cutting spending to foreign countries, right? That something that we do here correlates to the same thing as giving money somewhere else. Okay. You don't provide a detail. You speak in broad terms. I cannot stand when people do that. I would have said it and been like, such as XYZ. You didn't. So now I'm just looking at you like you're just being emotional and reacting. But it's another point. You know what? It's funny because the thing is, you probably will listen to me and be like, oh, fully anti, no foreign assistance or aid or anything, right? Like that's, I'm sure, what I sound like, total isolationist. I in fact am not total isolationist. I'm total isolationist right now because we can't help anybody else because we need to help ourselves first. But if we would have did it the right way, unfortunately, we became a war machine. And this is exactly what JFK did not want. If you ever listen to some of his speeches, that's not what he wanted, right? So if we did things the right way and actually went into other countries and invested in other countries and did this for something else, right? Like, let's keep it real. Nobody's just going to invest in another country and not get something back from it. That's ridiculous. But if we would have went to another country and just, all right, we're going to give you aid, but, you know, we need this resource because we're trying to do something here. But we will help you with your infrastructure. That's it. This is what China and Russia does. And I'm not here to be, you know, pro-China, pro-Russia. I'm just telling you what they do. And so you might even see reports where people are saying, oh, China's taken over the Latin countries, the southern Latin countries. Oh, China, oh. They want them there. Because when they were relying on America, we unfortunately give aid with a lot of crazy ideologies. Other countries like China and Russia, they don't do that, but I'm sure they want something else in return. I'm sure. So all of that, like, so I'm not really fully isolationist, but I'm just saying we need to clean our home first before we could ever be an influence anywhere else in the country. And I'm not saying that Americans themselves are bad. Our establishment does not answer to us. So yeah, they promote certain things that we as Americans would not want promoted. You know, I think that a lot of people are waking up to that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. As to say that something's deeply malign, like, oh, people are starting to think of something's deeply malign, deeply wrong. Nobody said deeply wrong, but we have issues. If anybody here is pretending like America's all of a sudden, we're just like, there's no issues here, you're not a serious person. We have an open border. Okay, so stop it. Okay, so Ben, conservatives is always, well, conservatives, you know, conservatives think that America's a force for good, and I still do. But unfortunately, that force for good has been infiltrated by something that's not good, and it needs to be called out and fixed. so that we could go back to being a force for good again at some point. So this isn't some, there you go with the my side thing. We're not doing this anymore. Like that's why people are over it.
What the life versus life metric was, as if there could be a sort of a stock exchange of lives or a foreign exchange of life. This life is worth more than this life. I think once you're in the territory of dropping nuclear bombs, it's hard to make any moral argument. That's my personal position, which I'd happily, of course, pursue with Ben Shapiro. Been on Ben's shows, and he's kindly ordained to be on this show. In this particular instance, I'm pretty, I'm ardently against the use of nuclear missiles. And my perspective on isolationism is this: subsidiarity. The closer power is to the people affected by it, the less likely it is there will be conflict of this scale. Because even though, as long as there have been people, there has been conflict, what we have an opportunity for now are new forms of confederacy, new forms of alliance, new forms of decentralization, new forms of anti-establishment politics that bakes in the idea that whilst you culturally run your community in this way, we run our community culturally in this way. And what you do over there is none of our business, and what we do over here is none of our business. And perhaps you might embed some what you might casually call universal principles around.
The way the world works now, too, we have the internet. I don't know if any of you guys are on Twitter, something called Twitter Spaces, okay, where you find yourself talking to people from Pakistan, from the UK, from, Australia, like all of this. Like, can you imagine, like, when I was growing up, like at the age of not even that far, not that long ago, at the age of 30, I would have never thought that I would be just in a conference call, if you will, with people from Australia. So a lot of those barriers have been broken, and you end up learning about other cultures and stuff. And there's a mutual respect. Listen, what we do over here works for us, and what you do over there works for you. But the establishment machine has not caught on to that, or maybe they don't care. I don't know. But they don't, this notion, look, I'm going to keep it all the way real. Again, this is what I mean about pushing your influence with money. Going to another country and saying that we're going to remove your dictator because we want to bring you democracy, to me is an absolute, I think it's a crime. I do. I do. Because number one, it, again, takes away from the American citizen, because now you're focusing on helping the government of another country. What are you doing? Number two, like, that's what works for them. Look, I feel bad that certain things might be happening, but I can't save everybody. And that dynamic works for them, because when you sometimes introduce a new dynamic to a place that's been working a certain way for centuries, literally, things break up. Things turn into something else that you didn't see coming. I don't know. You went in with good intentions. Our American system is not for everybody. It seriously, you have to be born into it to understand it. Just like you'd have to be born into those other systems to understand it. So I totally get what Russell's saying. And so it all goes back to, with Ben saying that, to be isolationist, you think America is a deeply malign. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying our system works for us. And is it even like lately? I don't know. But anyway, but it's not going to work everywhere else.
At how the Oppenheimer argument and dilemma actually played out. What was really created when Nagasaki and Hiroshima were bombed? Was it ultimately one of the most profitable industries the world has ever seen? Was this, in fact, the keystone of the military-industrial complex? Let's have a look.
And so there you go. And that's just, that's that right there is a huge point. And it's the point, too, that I think JFK, again, I bring him up again. And look, he's a Democrat. And he was a Democrat. And I'm a Republican, right? Well, I wasn't always a Republican, whatever. I'm labeled as a Republican for registration purposes, whatever. Anyway, but we both are Americans, or, who obviously passed away, right? We want the best for our country. And this is the point, I think, I know like a lot of other people talk about like the military industrial complex and how it was born and everything, but he did try to stop. He tried to stop it, or he talked to us about, I remember hearing one of his speeches when he was saying, we don't want to be a country that just promotes our influence through wars. That's basically what he said. It was one of the things he said, and it's true. And so yeah, okay, you can do all this, adding numbers and, algebraic equations of, was it right to drop the bomb? And we did because we saved, so many people in the future and this, that, and the other, whatever. Listen, it happened in the past. We can't sit here and act like we're going to change the past, but don't get mad at people for looking at the past and trying to learn from it. It's just that simple. At some point, we need to have a real discussion about the past, or else we continuously will keep repeating history. It's just like that. Thank you for watching.